Hello, welcome to another edition of the League's review/preview show. I'm your host and your co-commish, Samuel T. Wood. This begin with some things and some events that have happened outside of the games this week. As co-commissioner, it is my job to uphold the League's reputation and make sure things are done right and the rules are adhered to. And this week there's been some allegations against Andrew Brunning, one of the new players of the league, and against Samuel Wood. And against this office, the Commissioner's office has been accused of being a dictatorship. I'd like to address those rumours now. Andrew, I believe, as a player, not as Commissioner, as player, I believe my account was infiltrated by Andrew Brunning. If this is true, he has denied it to the hill, and I respect his denial, and I respect that he believes he did not do it. If he did, however, do it, his denial of the truth is disgraceful. It is unheard of in league history, so someone can keep denying something when it's happened, and he'll have to live with that with his conscience. Having said that, if it is not Andrew, the guilty party should step forward and just take the simple warning that they will receive. As for accusations against myself for being a dictator, you know what? I've tried this league, I've worked incredibly hard to make it what it is, and that accusation hurts. And yes, we work incredibly hard at the Commissioner's office to make sure this league is successful. We have a media department doing stories, doing these video blogs. You know, we work hard to make this league enjoyable and fun for not just the players, but for the fans and the millions watching at home. I'd like to address this rumour that I've got a God complex and that I want to run the league. This is all I have to say on that matter.
You ask me if I have a God complex? Let me tell you something. I am God.
That's right. I run this league. I'm in charge with Mr. Willis. We run this league. We make sure things are done right, and we have done it right. This league is what it is because of what we do and what you do at home, and the players, Charles, Sire, Ollie, all these people getting involved. It's fun because we try hard, and the commissioners are at the forefront of this. We are the leaders, and we will continue to lead this league through these difficult times, no matter what Mr. Brunning tries, no matter what Mr. Smith may have tried last season to oust our commissioners and make this an absolute laughing stock of a league. So that is all I have to say on the matter for now. Now, moving on to the matchups. We've got an interesting one this week. George's Colts, an absolute baller this week. Fantastic. I'm loving George at the moment. George is my most improved player of the season so far. Fantastic effort. He's on 180 points this week. Knocked Tom out of the water, who scored an incredibly solid score. 168.66 is a good score. No questions about it. His name, however, is dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. It is the worst name I've ever seen, and the worst thing about it is there's no capital letters. That drives me mental, so change that immediately. You don't have to make them up. You can Google and find the names Tom, by the way. Don't try and make them up yourself, because that is dreadful if you made that up. You know, good score for George. George is up there now. He's in the game. It's exciting to see. We've got 8 players in the running. Well, 7. Let's forget about that side. 7 players, and George is one of them, which is great. We love that in the league. So well done, George. Keep it up. Really impressed with you so far. Next up, co-commissioner, one of my favourite players in the league, Craig Willis. 211 points, highest score this season. I mean, if the points hadn't been reduced a little bit and the PPR brought back a little bit by the commissioners at the start of the year, that was asked for by the fans and by the players. See, we do listen to our league, Mr. Brunning. We would have seen maybe a record scoring performance from Mr. Willis. As it is, he'll be happy with the result, but I think he'll be a bit nervous that he's peaking now. Craig knows he's got a peak in the playoffs. You know, he's got some great players and he's getting some great points, but I think he'll be a little bit nervous that his players are going to maybe get a couple of injuries. He's going to have to manage this right. Gronk is the key to everything in his team, I believe. He's got Gronk. Let me just check for you. I don't want to get in trouble with anyone. Yeah, he has Gronk. Yeah, so you know, someone like Mr. Willis, he needs to make sure his team is based around his stars and that they stay fit. But got to give him his credit. Doesn't matter what week you do him, he's getting wins, and he's up there in the top 4, and he's right amongst it like we predicted. As for Ollie, I guess Ollie, I was on Holiday Hume is his new nickname, or Ollie, I would be unbeaten if I hadn't been on Holiday Hume. Sorry, Ollie. I guess it's back to the drawing board for him. He's got to make something happen. He had a trade offer, and he's had trade offers, and maybe he needs to go and reach out to a couple of players. Maybe Simon, maybe Sam, maybe even Charles. You know, Charles might be up for a trade. You never know. He's got to make something happen because he's dropped from 1st to 4th. Maybe a little bit panicky on my part to say that, but I am worried for Ollie. I'm worried he won't make the playoffs if he's not careful. So let's keep an eye on that as the weeks go by. Next up, it's Mr. Brunning, the infamous Mr. Brunning, going up against Mr. Charles Smith. 2 players, both who have been accused of hacking, and probably one is certainly guilty, admitted it, and one is almost certainly another guilty party. Yeah, it was an interesting week. Charles 163. It's a good enough score in some weeks, and it's worked out that way for Charles. As for Mr. Brunning, one of the players tried to help him out this week. Unsurprisingly, threw it back in their face. But he 153. It's an okay score. You know, he's not this week had enough points to get a win, but maybe next week that's enough. You never know. So we'll look ahead to next week in a bit. But I think that many points next week may be enough against his opponent. Lastly, we go to Simon K. Simon, NFL analyst K. He's had another pretty poor week. Would have beat a couple of players in the league, but his score is nothing to write home about. T. White Hilton is one of his traded players he received this week. Did a great job, but Brandon Marshall, we love him here over the league, but not good enough. He's not got enough points coming out of this trade right this week, you know, and Wood's come out of this trade, and you know, Eddie Lacy's only picked up one player, and Eddie Lacy probably that's really going to make a difference. Terence Floyd may have good weeks, but it will depend on all. It'll be a bit inconsistent with him. So the player he wanted, Eddie Lacy, great week. What a week for the boy, you know, pretty much won Wood the match, and I think Wood will be content that his players are doing enough to get him the results. Jimmy Graham's coming back. We know, we've spoke to Wood, and we know he's excited for Josh Gordon's return. He thinks he's going to make his team. He's going to have the great receivers again because he's lost T.Y. Josh Gordon will be his replacement. He's hoping Calvin, after the bye week, comes back flying, back out there, the Megatron we know. He could peak at the perfect time, and if he does, it's going to be very hard to stop him. But that was week 8. What a week. We have Wood at the top of the table. K rooted to the bottom. We have 3, 3 and 5 teams in George Ashley, Thomas Smith and Andrew Big Jerk Brunning. And then we have our 5 and 3 teams, Ollie Hume, Craig Willis, Charles Smith, great players up there, and then sitting top of that tree, Wood 6 and 2. It's like a dynasty in the making, an unstoppable dynasty perhaps. Some people are saying it's going to be a Hall of Fame level of management coming out of Wood this week. Without all his stars, he's gonna maybe shut up this week now, but we'll look at that in a minute. Let's move on to week 9 now, and let's see what we got this week. Starting off, George's Colts going up against Mr. Willis. Now, this is a tough one for me. I see this as a surprise. I see a shock. And I think George Ashley's going for the win. I think he's going on a run. I think Willis is fantastic, and he's the favourite, in my opinion, to win this match. But I see the shot coming, and that is George Ashley with a win. I'm sorry, Craig, but there's a shot coming, and it has to happen. It's happened to Wood. It's happened to Mr. Smith. You know, shocks happen, and it shouldn't, but I think it will. And I'm going to give George the big win. Next up, Cool Brunnings going up against, I'm just going to call them Tom Smith's team. Tom Smith's going to win this match, simple as. Tom Smith's going to smash him. Tom Smith is going to absolutely obliterate him. And we know there'll be some players that love to see this. So let's forget about that match and move on. Next up, Simon Laughingstock K going up against It's Not My Forte, Ollie Hume. Very good name, Ollie. I'm happy with it. I think it's solid. To be honest, I don't really know with this one. I've gone with Si a lot, and he's just let me down non-stop. Maybe he can get some sort of momentum going. There is discussions about a different playoff format this year, and maybe changing it from a 4-team. Maybe if he gets a win, he could sneak in the playoffs. Who knows? But you got to go with your gut in this game. And I'm going to give Simon one more shot at this. He's 2-6. If he gets this win, he'll be able to probably get himself off the bottom of the table. He'll be moving forward in a positive way. I think he needs Brandon Marshall a lot. I think he needs some solidity to this team. He needs players to score not 40 points, but them all to score maybe 15, 20 points. Let's get some consistency in his team. That is what he'll be looking for this week. He needs to look at waivers. He needs to be more aware of who he's playing up against. You know, he's got to do something different. Something's got to change with Mr. K. Otherwise, he's going to win the Wooden Spoon Award, and there will be a trophy for that, and he will have to display it in his room so everyone can see it. Lastly, this is my power pick match. This is the big one here. This is one we thought would be really interesting, looking ahead to almost 2 weeks on the last show. It's the champ, Sam Wood, going up against Mr. Charles Smith. Now, Wood does not have Geordie Nelson, Eddie Lacy, Calvin Johnson. He probably doesn't have Rashard Jennings, and he probably doesn't have Reggie Wayne. He is depleted beyond belief. He's traded away Frank Gore, who was the guy who was going to probably have stick in the running back. His team looks ugly. But does that mean the genius cannot pull it off? I don't know. Charles, he's been scoring good. He's been doing well. He's up in the good positions. You know, he's in the top 4. That's where he wants to be. He's no joke. He's no mug. But Wood is a magician, and maybe he can pull this out. If Charles loses this match, it will be the biggest upset the league this year because of the sheer lack of talent Wood has because of buys and injuries together. He's got a bench space used up for Josh Gordon. He cannot drop him now. He's had him in there for weeks. It'd be stupid to drop him. He's got to stick with this. He's got to accept this week is a boom or bust week with some iffy players. Michael Floyd, sorry Simon, I know you hate that. Michael Floyd, can he do it? Maybe he's banged up. It's going to be such a tough week for Wood, but we're going to give this one to Charles. Charles pulls this out. It's a blowout. It's a blowout win for Charles. Wood will take this as a loss. He'll walk away happy that he traded for Eddie Lacy and that he's going to peak at the right time. Charles, this is another good win, puts himself right in the playoffs. It's sort of win-win for both. Even if Wood loses, I'm sure he's content. He'll probably fall off the top of the league. He'll be a bit more of a in-the-pack player, and boom, hopefully then he can hit with an impact. Thank you for listening to this video today. It's an interesting one. I hope that the league members clean up their attitude this week. The league is about fun and fairness. We do not want to see this behaviour, and whoever did these acts will have to live with it in their conscience for a long time. I will admit to you all now that I was there when that comment was written. I was in the building, yes. I do not deny that I was in the building. However, I contest that it was written by me. It was not written by me. My account was hacked and used again against my will. Now, if it's a crime that I knew perhaps something wrong was being done, then yes, sue me. But sometimes when you aim for perfection, you miss by an inch. And I do not believe that there is any crime of any note that is any kind of crime that would cause an investigation or any kind of